Let's talk about all of the iconic scars from JJK and how those characters got them. But for my anime onlys, we're going to have to dive deep into the manga for this one, so we will catch y'all in the next one. And alright, y'all, we're just going to go ahead and do Kenjaku first. Probably the most iconic and interesting scar in all of JJK. Probably because it's connected to one of its most enigmatic characters, right? Now, unfortunately, we don't really have that much information about this scar other than the fact that it's clearly connected to his curse technique. The curse technique that allows him to swap bodies and kind of have a functional immortality, right? Now, we don't know if that is literal surgery happening, like there's a doctor involved even maybe, and it's a brain transplant, or if it's much simpler than that, and maybe he can do it all by himself. We don't know, and at this point in the manga, given what's happened, we may never know the intricacies of how this curse technique works. However, a little bit of light is shed on this from Gege in the fan book. There he was asked why doesn't he heal the scar on his forehead, because he has reverse curse technique, and Gege reveals it's a binding vow, which is just really interesting, right? Because we know the way binding vows work is you give something up to get something else, right? Equivalent exchange. So what might Kenjaku have gained from taking on that glaring weakness of having the scar across his forehead? Because it's basically a big sign that says, hey, I'm Kenjaku, be wary of this person, assuming you know who Kenjaku is, right? But just imagine the extra layers of manipulation that could happen if there was no scar on the forehead and you had to walk around just wondering if every single person might actually be Kenjaku. So whatever it is he gained from that binding vow must have been pretty substantial. So next, let's talk about Yuji, and he's got four main scars, basically. First, he's got this thing on his ear, he's got the big slash on his face, the one next to his mouth there, and finally his pinky finger. So two of these he's gotten from Mahito, and this first one is the scar across his face, which he got from this punch during their Shibuya fight. And then a little bit later during that same fight is when he'll get the injury to his mouth. And then just because I know somebody's going to argue with me in the comments and say that Yuji got his face scar from Choso, which is this moment up here, he didn't, because Sukuna then healed that scar, as you can see here, and then here is Yuji going into the Mahito fight. No scars. And the final two injuries are both from Sukuna, the first of which is one of the most iconic moments in the entire series, where Sukuna creates a new cursed object containing all of his essence in Yuji's pinky and then rips that off and feeds it to Megami. And then shortly after that, Sukuna throws a dismantle our boy's way and it clips off the top of his ear. And while Yuji has reverse curse technique now, he didn't for the majority of the series, right? So oftentimes Yuji would still be drawn with his full ear or with his pinky, and Gege would just comment that that was a mistake. He forgot to draw those injuries. And next up, we've got quite the pair, but not of arms, because both Inumaki and Angel have lost a limb, both thanks to Sukuna. In Inumaki's case, it was due to the domain expansion during Shibuya, and in Angel's case here, you can see it's because Sukuna took a big old bite out of her. Next up, we've got Urahime, whose facial scar is one of the most prominent features of her character design, right? But we know absolutely nothing about this. The only data point we have is that she didn't have that when she was younger. So something happened between Hidden Inventory and where the story is today that gave her that scar. But beyond that, it's just pure speculation. And while we're on the subject of iconic facial scars, let's talk about Todo next. And in this case, we know where he got it from. Gege revealed in the fan book that Todo got this scar due to Yuki's extreme training from when he was younger. Next up, we've got Toji and his signature corner of the mouth scar. And again, we know this one thanks to the fan book, where Gege tells us that Toji got this as a child when the Zenin clan threw him into that pit that they keep all of the cursed spirits in. And speaking of the Zenin clan, next up we've got Maki, who's got more scars than anybody at this point, and these are thanks to her encounter with Jogo, specifically the moment from Shibuya where he cranks up the heat. Next up, we've got Ino, who lost his right eye, or he likes to blink a lot. And I say that because I think there's been a couple of times where Gege has forgotten, kind of like with Yuji's injuries, but I'm pretty sure they're just mistakes. And this happened to Ino during his fight with Toji in Shibuya. It wasn't pretty. And y'all, I think that's pretty much going to wrap this one up. Be sure to let me know in the comments if there's any big scars or injuries that I glossed over. I'm sure there's at least a couple I forgot. But shout out to Haobei for this question, and the question did specify for current characters. That's why I didn't include anybody that had already passed away. But on that note, there is actually one more. And that is our glorious blue-eyed king's midsection scar. Doubters beware and copers prepare. The time draws near.